Hey guys, welcome in. Thank you for being here for another lunchtime conversation. So this one, especially with Father's Day in the air, I can't wait to share. NASCAR champion Joey Logano and country superstar Lee Brice, they've known each other for a while, but when I found out Lee was playing in Joey's foundation event, I wanted to talk to the two of them together. They have so much in common. They're both dads of three. They're both the top of their games and what they do, but they were so open about how they flip the switch as far as their personalities go when they're doing what they do. Also, the changes they've made in their lives to be better dads. But the one thing I really want you to listen for is at the end of this conversation, Joey Logano asks Lee Brice a question, and I just remember thinking, whoa, that is deep. Anyway, I hope you love this conversation as much as I do. It begins upstairs at a bar. All right, so where are you aiming?
I'm going over there. I'm gonna try to go over there. Let's see what happens here.
Action.
Amazing.
Still got it.
Amazing.
Still got it. Yo!
What are you doing?
Not much. How are you?
Shooting some pool?
Yeah, trying to.
Like on the old school tables right here, baby, right?
Like it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It has the miles on them, I think.
Oh, I like them better like that.
Yeah.
How you been?
Oh, God, I've been good. We've been busy, you know. We hit the road, played all of Canada, and in the meantime and everything in between, you know, there's the three kids, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like all of life right now. I'm making some new music, you know, it's just a lot going on, but it's
Career
it's
and-
great.
and,
Yeah.
kids
Sarah, poor
and
Sarah.
family, it's hard.
Yeah, Sarah's trying to like be at 3 different places at one time. I'm like, oh, baby,
Dude,
I'll be home in a minute.
tell you what, takes an army.
It does.
Takes
It does
an
take
army
an
these
army.
days,
It
for
sure
sure.
does.
Joey Logano, Lee Brice, this is so awesome to sit with you guys because Lee, we talked several years ago, but I mean,
Yeah.
so much has happened since then.
Oh, man.
And
Duh.
Joey, current champion, sorry, just grabbed your leg accidentally.
You just attacked. Current champion.
Current
Back to that.
champion, current champion. And this is so awesome. How do you guys know each other to begin with? I know you have met.
You know, it's one of those stories in a bar, you just run into a fella and, hey, you want a beer? And,
You look like that guy, right?
It was not like that. It was not like this. Actually, during COVID, we wanted to do something for the first responders.
yeah.
Right, because during like the middle of COVID, it was right all the men and women in hospitals and police force and firefighters and all these people that had to still work, and when we didn't know what COVID was and what
Right.
the risks were and any of that,
Yeah.
right? So these people were really on the front lines at the time, and we wanted to do something for them to say thank you.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do a concert at the Speedway here in Charlotte, and so we asked Lee if he'd be willing to do it. He
Hanging it
came
out.
down, and it was awesome. With the first time we met, you came to my shop. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
And we had some side-by-sides there.
laughing?
Talked about that after I left.
We had a good time. we
I
rode
tried
some
to get in. I
side-by-sides.
tried to get into
It was
his
fun.
race car physically.
Oh, we
My
did do
feet
that
got
too.
to the floorboard. My butt got about halfway in the door, and then everything stopped. And I went, I'm like this much is still hanging out in the car. I'm going. I'm trying to get my feet to maybe go further in so that I can. I'm trying to. Nothing would go any further.
He was not fitting.
It was
There
this. I mean, it was physically.
nothing.
I mean, I remember my manager.
That's why you're a songwriter. What a visual,
Enzo's
right?
like, I'm like, so I'm stuck. So now I'm stuck in the door, and this is all getting on footage, right? I'm like, and I even got my butt close to the seat, but the seat's about this wide. Yeah,
It's
about,
pretty
about
narrow.
that wide. I'm like, so I'm not gonna go. So then we're like, I finally get pulled back out of the car, and Enzo's like, hey guys, could we maybe just not air that part?
I remember we get in it, so it's a like drift truck, right? So it's
Okay.
it's an old Ford truck. It's got a cup motor in it, and we drifted around the parking lot, right?
Awesome.
Lee's in the passenger seat. Well, he's not in. He's on the passenger seat. He's not in the seat.
Oh, no.
So he's not in it. His head's like up in the roof, and he's all. And I'm like, you can't get the seatbelts to work because he's not in the seat. So we're like, well, screw it.
I'm
You'll
done.
be all
I
right.
don't care. It's fine.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, no buckle
So what
up.
were you thinking at that point?
That he really trusted me.
Oh yeah, I did, and I did. I was like, you know what? Of all
know
the
we just
people,
met.
I don't need no seatbelt. It's fine. Ain't no other cars here. There's just a brick wall over there and a ditch over here.
We were
Oh my
fine.
God.
We made it.
Oh my God.
It was so fun.
All right, so you came together through charity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're helping others, and so that's what you guys were doing here together too. That's awesome. What was your first impression of Joey when you first met him?
Well, I thought, that all NASCAR drivers kind of had to be like, sort of like my friends I grew up with, kind of redneck and maybe mean and won't fight and, just, and like I was like, you're not that way.
That's what you expected?
Like, you're so nice and you're so like sweet and.
It's only at times.
Yeah.
I'm nice and sweet now.
I
You put the helmet
heard
on,
a couple
that's where it
stories
changes.
after. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then I saw a couple videos. I said, okay, he's got that streak in him. You got to be the thing when you're a NASCAR driver. And you still got it. He just don't show it all the time. Right now, see, he's just such a.
Having fun.
His face is all shaven and he's so pretty.
You do look very clean cut.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The guy I work for, Roger Penske, is a very clean-cut person. That's kind of our our thing. So we make sure we fit the mold from that standpoint, which I'm that way.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's you got to turn. It's the same way like when you got to go on stage or do something like it's like you got to be on and you got to go, right?
Yeah,
And it's
whatever
almost.
that is.
I can't speak for you, but I know at least for me, there's two Joeys.
Yeah.
They're two completely different people.
Yeah.
Right? Like. That's the coolest thing about being a race car driver is that you can be someone completely different in the race car and then be able to shut it off and be normal again. I can be like who you want to be and who you are, but I can go in a race car and be a complete jerk. I don't know if we can cuss on here or not.
Like,
but you can be a real asshole on this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, like, you
Back
can
to
shut
And
off
what
and
does,
you'll be fine.
let me ask
And
real
that's-
quick, what does
but
that
you
look
have to.
like? Like, what would being that way on the track look like?
Being selfish, right? That's
Okay,
what it
yeah.
is, right?
Yeah,
'Cause-
that's a big one.
But you have to be
not
selfish.
him.
Right.
Right.
The
That's
other-
not who I
yeah.
am, but I have to be.
To
Selfish in
to
a
win,
selfless
to
way,
compete,
right?
yeah.
Because I want to win for the people that work on my race cars and the sponsors and everyone
It's
that's
your job.
involved. I have to go out there and win. And so there's 40 other drivers or 39 other drivers that are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to roll over for those people, right?
Right.
It's like that's my job.
Yeah.
They're trying to take food off my plate.
Right.
Right? I'm like, they're not my friends at that point.
You see, I
right?
can see it coming
That's
out
what
of him.
happened. I get fired up.
He started.
Yeah, so anyways,
get
helmets off, I'm back
fired
right now. I get fired up.
I mean, but that is interesting. Like, do you, over the years, has that gotten, like, do you see that more, or do you is that something that you manage and you flip a switch, or you know what I'm saying?
I think it's just a competitive vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's just a competitor in you, right? Like I see that in me in business, right? Like the outside things I do that
same
aren't
things.
in the sport or something's just different. My goal when I do something is to win and is to beat the other people, right?
Right.
Like it's if we go in a different business venture, it's to put those guys out of business. Like
Yeah.
that's our
Right.
deal. Like
We
I want them
wanna-
out, I want to win.
We want to win.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think anyone like in whether it's sport or music or whatever, you get to a certain level, they're competitive people, right? Like we're all sitting here, you're a competitive person, right? You're trying to grow and build your brand and do this show. Same thing with Lee, he's trying to be the best country music star out there.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do.
And it's it's really very parallel. I mean, I just said earlier, me personally, I'm a shy guy. I'm kind of the guy, like if it had nothing to do with music or me being on, if I was at a party or at any get together, I'm usually the guy that would just be over in the corner, just kind of watching everybody and just chilling, Even like, say, a concert, if I had to go to a concert, I'd be the guy sitting down, like taking the concert in. I'm not the guy out there who
Dancing, having a big
I'm
time.
just because I'm like this. But
Is
really,
it because you're studying?
no,
that,
well,
or
that
it
is,
who
but
you
like
are?
for the most part, I'm just kind of a quiet, keep to myself. But when I walk on the stage, it's like it's a different person, like you said. Because I got to do what I came here to do. I got to knock everybody else out of the park. And so this competition thing comes over me. Like when I'm walking on the football field, it's like walk on stage. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
And like, y'all ready? And it's like this thing comes out of me like that, right? And I'm like, come on, let's do this.
Right.
But that's not me right before I walk on the stage. You know what I mean? Me, other than that, I'm just very reserved and keep to myself. And if it was my choice, I probably wouldn't talk to anybody. I just kind of, I was that way my whole life though. I'm just a shy kind of just, I'm not the life of the party. Now, when I did grow up a little bit and I had, if I have a couple too many of these, I might become the life of the party. But that's a whole different story. That's not
That's a
who,
different-
you know what I mean? That's not.
Yeah.
So how early before you take the stage do you start to feel that other Lee?
It depends on the shows, or the day. Like sometimes I've had writers out and we've been writing for 3 days and I'm exhausted and I just want to take as much rest as I can right up before the show to just be ready to give all the energy I have to that, but
Does it matter?
it
the
really
scale?
is. It's really. It's so funny because when you say that technically, I'm me, walking through the thing. Guitars on, me. Normal me, ears in. Intro starts. I'm like still me. And then when I know it's time for me to go, click, and I walk out, and it's like this. What was it? Kevin Costner was like, clear the mechanism, And it's like a different thing. It's like a different person.
Does it matter the scale of the show? Like if the show is like a huge sold out, huge venue versus a smaller
It doesn't
crowd,
matter as far, because
doesn't
that
matter?
happens every time, every show. Now, I will say, you come out to some shows, and it just might be like, we went up to Canada, and we played all of Canada early on, it was like, 5-6 weeks. And they were so appreciative in their own way that we were there playing music. It was crazy. It was like we were Garth Brooks. And so, yes, it was cool to come out on those stages with these packed arenas, and these people were like, yes, we are ready to rock. So, yes, that helps,
Yeah.
me kind of get into that.
Yeah.
Are you ready to rock, eh? Okay.
Well, I got some rockin' for you.
But yeah, that matters. But it doesn't really matter what show it is. I still have to flip
Yeah.
that switch right
Yeah.
before I walk.
It must be nice to go on stage while everybody is cheering for you.
Yeah, that's
That doesn't
really
happen
cool.
for
Yeah.
me. I get about half cheers and half a lot of booze. I don't know if you had a lot of booze before, but I get
Have you?
flipped off a lot, bro.
I heard some people.
The other Joey does.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah,
right?
well, it's still me though.
Man,
It's
man.
funny.
Did that start for you both when you were kids, in terms of the competitive drive? And because that it is, to me, it seems like it's a little different than your average Joe, not to use your name, but like, you know what I mean? Like your level of competition, both of you, it's heightened, right?
Yes.
It's exceptional.
I think it's something that's natural. that
Yeah,
You're born with.
100%.
Because
Because when I'm 5,
Yeah.
I'm just as competitive. Whatever
Yes.
I'm doing, if I'm having a rock throwing contest or making
Yeah.
a machete out of tape and a lawnmower
what?
blade, I'm like, I can do this.
you make the best one.
I'm gonna make a lemonade stand, and it's gonna be the best lemonade stand. It's
Exactly.
like
You're born
maybe
with
I
it.
watched my daddy try to be the best at everything he did, and
Mm-hmm.
it made me want to. Maybe that's where it came from, or maybe it was just inside in the
think
blood, like
Probably
in
a
the
little bit of
heart,
both. Probably a little bit of both, I think. Right? You learn by example.
Yeah.
Probably the best way to parent, I think. I know you'll know more than me. But
Yeah.
you get both of
I
them
hope
with me
not.
at this point.
I hope
But
they're
I don't
doing what
think
I
it's
say
born
and not what I do. No.
Right.
I think you're born into it, right? Because
think
it's
you
not
are.
like you get more competitive as you go or get up, or more competitive inside. It's
yeah.
just like,
You've always been there.
I'm here. I want to win. I want to be the best.
I know,
And there's
when you-
nothing wrong with that. Like
I
that's
think
okay.
I think about it a lot. Like, what did you think when you were that age, when you started to feel that fire? Did you think that this is what maybe one of the outcomes would be, right? Or is it like, now those are the things I think about with myself. Like, what did I, right? Like, I think expectations
I
are so
didn't think
interesting.
about a whole lot of other stuff other than Clemson football and music.
When did you, like for me, when I was 6 years old and I first got my quarter midget and I started racing, it was one goal. I'm going to be a cup champion. That's it.
And you were playing hockey at the
That's all I
time
did.
too, is that
yeah,
right
but I
or
sucked
not?
at that. I knew
Got
I was
it,
never
okay.
going to make it in that. But I was like pretty good at driving cars. I'm like, okay. And I was 6 and I'm like, I'm pretty good at this because I was winning. And I thought, well, okay, one goal. This is what I do the rest of my life. I want to be the best of the best in the series. Period. Was it like that for you? Like in country
So
music?
I was, and I've told this story before, but it's not quite accurate, really, when I think about it. But 17 years old, my girlfriend at the time had bought tickets to go see Garth Brooks. And when I saw that in Charleston, South Carolina, I was like, this is for sure what I want to do, this right here, exactly. Now, but really, back up to the first concert I went to, I felt the same way. I remember Shenandoah was singing 2 Dozen Roses, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And then if I really think back, we had like quartets and stuff coming into the churches and stuff, and when I was at those concerts, I was thinking, I'm 8 years old, and I'm going, this is what I want to do. I'll go back to when I was 6. I walked out on stage in front of my church. I sat on the piano and I played "Oh How I Love Jesus." In that moment, I remember I was like, first time I'd been in front of people. I got through it and I was like, that was awesome, because they stood up and they clapped, and I thought, this is what I want to do. So really, it wasn't Garth. You know, it was more like 10 years earlier when I was at church on that piano.
Yours
singing.
was like a feeling,
It's
right?
like, I know
it's
I'm
like,
going to do
and
this.
maybe Joey's, yours is too. I'd like that's what I think.
Both
is
is
so
a feeling of success, right?
Yeah.
Like, even when I was a kid, I wanted little kids race, and I loved the feeling of winning. It's the same thing, right? When everyone's singing and standing up, and
a lot of people
don't
go. They don't care about that as much. A lot of people like, I really love to swim. I don't need to be the fastest swimmer in the world.
You're right.
Yeah, that's
But I just like to swim. And I'm like, okay, cool, good for you.
Yeah.
But if I was gonna be a swimmer,
I kind of wish sometimes I was
I would
like that.
beat you to the other side, you know.
I can't do it.
Right, because you can't. It's hard to separate.
Right.
I can't do it.
Because that's how
like
you're
in
wired.
anything.
Right.
Like we were talking about golf earlier.
That's why golf is
I
kind of
suck at
hard.
golf, so I hate golf. It's just like that. I can't win in golf.
You're either with
I'm
me
not
or you're
going
not,
golfing.
right?
That's what it is.
I just
I
there's,
haven't gone golfing in 15 years. I suck at it. I'm not going.
but I bet it's one of those things that if you went out like a few times and you would like, I mean, that
It
would
would
be
take
it.
me years.
If
I
he
don't know.
decided he wanted to
Right,
do it,
right.
he would do it. I would just start with
Yeah.
Top Golf. Just go
Yeah,
up
maybe
there and
Top-
start
right,
around,
go
start around there. Yeah, that might be okay.
That's where Molly equals. Okay, so when you get to the point then where you are Joey, current champion, and Lee having won a gazillion awards, right? You've such accolades with your singing, with your songwriting, all the things. What happens then? What is that like when it happens?
The actual moment, like when
The
when
moment
something
that-
happens.
or- all of
it becomes work, even though it's exactly what we want to be doing. A lot of the job isn't that moment I talked about when I was playing the song in front of the church. A lot of this job, obviously, like Joey, is the other stuff that you got to do, and it's like if everybody could do it, then everybody would do it. But you got to have enough passion for something to put the work in, the time in, your whole life, and sacrifice time, a lot of time with your family. Like it's a life-altering. These kinds of things are this isn't like get up and go to work in the morning and
not
like,
9 to
come on.
5-er.
It's not a 9 to 5-er, and it's true. Like we get kids at certain ages and stuff, you're kind of like, I wish I had a 9 to 5-er, you know, because I want to be here in the mornings and I want to. It's hard. It's getting harder at the ages, but yeah, I mean,
The balance is hard through life. I've noticed over the last 5 years or so for me, with traveling, kids, trying to be like. To get back to the competitive part, I want to be the best dad in the world. Right.
Which you just gets hard to do if
How
you're
do I-
doing this other thing.
How do I do it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then there's some days that I feel like I suck at everything.
Yeah.
There's some days I get home, I'm like, I failed at everything today. I wasn't a good enough husband, I wasn't a good enough father, and I wasn't a good enough race car driver. Like, there's just times that I feel like, because you're gone from home, and if I have a bad race and I screwed up, I'm like, well, I just screwed up. So I'm not a good race car driver. I wasn't with my kids. So I wasn't a good
I
dad.
failed at everything
My wife's
today.
at home with all these kids. I'm a bad husband too, and I'm like, oh my God, I suck, right? And it's just like that.
So what?
But I mean, like everyone sees the highlight reel, right? That's what they see.
Yeah.
When Lee goes on stage and he's singing
That's
up
what
there,
they
and they
see.
think that is the coolest job in the world. He's up here,
And
he's
it
rocking
is,
out,
right?
and it is
It
cool.
is, but
right?
it's
but it
definitely-
comes with there's a grind piece to it, right? You got to there's work to get to that level and to stay at that level and stay relevant and
That's a big part of it.
continue winning is not simple. It's a lot. I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining or we're complaining about it because it's still an
No,
awesome
it's a
job.
very specific
It pays well.
circumstance.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, it's
well,
good.
it's like
but-
she asked specifically, you know, what happens whenever you get there? And I'm like, well, that's where I'm at, you know. I'm there. I'm playing arenas. I'm paying for my kid. I'm, you know, with my job this is, you know, this is it. This is the life. But the hard part comes then, the hardest thing goes to competition level goes, well, now it's easy to introduce myself to the world and like be a new thing and kind of maybe do this over a bunch of years and get to a point. It's really hard to stay that that cool to people and stay that relevant, it's harder to stay there than it is to get there, I think, sometimes. And
I never thought about it
I can
that
see
way.
that from you. I think
You
it's
know.
different for us.
But
We're relevant as long as we win.
as long as you win. But if
But I don't have
you
to
know
be
what?
cool to
you're
win.
gonna get older,
Right? Like, I
and
don't
you're gonna
have
get
to
older,
be-
and it's gonna get harder, and all the other things are gonna press on you.
Yeah.
And then one day you're like, man, the drive for this lessens a little bit, with age and with this wisdom and kids and stuff. And you go, okay, now I gotta still be the best, but also because I really want to be the best of the daddy part. And so it starts to weigh on you a little bit sometimes. I mean, it's not changed our life, but this year I cut off a bunch of shows. I said I only want to play this many shows this year because I want to be home this many days.
It's funny, I said at the beginning of this year, I walked into the office, I'm going to do less better this year. And they're like, you're going to do less better? I said, yeah, I'm going to do less things better. So I'm going to do less
it.
better. And it was like my
love
New Year's
that.
resolution. I walked in,
I like that.
looked at me like, you're going to, what? I'm just going to do less better.
Did you come up with that?
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
love
It's
that.
a shower thought,
yeah.
And things just come in like, yeah, less better. I like that.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like when people
I'm
say
doing
work
too many
smarter.
things right now.
Work smarter,
Work
not
smarter. Because
Exactly.
it is hard when you, before I say that, what's interesting is about what Lee just said is you are the defending champion though, right? So I wonder in some ways if you don't worry about your relevance, but you worry like if following that performance up, if that
Yeah.
is a pressure
Yeah.
that is sort of
Well,
similar,
yeah, 'cause
right?
you don't
Like,
want the post-championship slump.
But in
right? Like,
sports, that's so
it's
hard.
It's a very relevant thing. Like that's a
yeah.
real.
That happens a lot in so many sports. And you know what counteracted that one for me is, and this is a kind of a funny story. I went to Ford's headquarters and met with their CEO, and I'm thinking, this is after the championship, it's just me and him in this office. I'm like, okay, and my crew chief, Paul. And I'm thinking this is going to be like a, hey, nice job, you won us a championship, that's great, right? He said that, and then he followed it up with, but you probably won't win next year.
And you're like,
And I was like, huh? Wait a minute, hold on. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I wasn't ready for it. Right? I was expecting a celebration, this was awesome. And he told me, you're probably, you just can be complacent. You already made it. You're there. You're not as hungry. I feel like a couple of years ago you missed a championship by a spot, and you probably were pissed about that.
Wow.
And so like
That's
a
what he
week went
said?
by. Yeah, this is exactly what he said.
Wow.
And so a week goes by, and it kind of dawned on me. I said, this guy's smart. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to piss me
to
off,
piss
and it
me
worked.
off. Yeah.
It worked.
And you know
it
what?
worked so good. So, like that's been like my driver
That's
factor
good.
this year. And then I've said this story many times. I've said it to the team a lot. We've printed hats, and our slogan's never enough, right? Like it's just never enough. Like just because we've made it, the journey's not over.
It's not over.
It's not over. And until I hang up the helmet, the journey's not over.
Period.
And so I got to just keep fighting for it and keep going for it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, if that drive goes away, if that thing ever leaves you, that's when you go do something else.
Yeah.
For me,
Yep.
if I'm not going to go out there and be the best songwriter and perform to people like, in my mind, like there's something they've never seen every night they come. If I can't do that, if I'm not going for that, then
What's the point?
I'll just go home and write songs, or I'll just go home and I'll go work with my dad. I'll be, whatever. I just, what's the point? To me, yes. What's the point? I think a lot of people aren't that way, and so there is a different breed of people. There's certain people that care about competition, and it's competition with yourself, really.
Right.
It's like I want to beat what I did last year. I want to keep lifting myself to a new height, and
Are there things you're doing differently to get there? Do you change up stuff each year?
well, there's all kind of things you learn. Like you learn more about a car. You learn more about that turn on whatever speedway.
Yeah.
Or there's a million things you're clicking in that you experience, right? And so over experience, I learned so many things about. Okay, well, we put out this song because I wanted it to feel like this, and I thought everybody was gonna love it, when I need to get better at like hanging out with some radio folks so that I know exactly how to play the game, and get it all done. It's not always, best song is going to be the one played on the radio. It's a work thing you have to figure out. And so millions of little things you're figuring out along the way teach you to still be able to now still be in there, being relevant and like be the best, and it's hard to say the best, in like this line of work. But for me, in my mind, I want to feel like we put on a show just now that nobody out there anywhere could have touched tonight.
Yeah.
You know, and these people were gonna walk away tonight going, "That's the best show I ever saw."
I feel like I gotta do things different sometimes, just keep it fresh.
Yeah, we do that too. Yeah.
Right, like this is my 15th season in Cup, and when you do 38 races a year, it's like the same Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Just a different track. Then Monday's debrief day, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you keep going. You're doing the same thing over and over again, even though it's a different track. But it's like the same meetings scheduled at the same time to the same place to do the same thing. And sometimes I'm like, I just need to do something different. Like I need to like switch it up just to, like you know, people say you should drive to work different ways sometimes. Like, because if you do the same thing over again, like you just, like I drive to Penske, our race shop, I go different ways every day. Just because I'm like, I don't know, I'll try this way, I'll try. And some are longer than others, but whatever. Just because I just get so stuck into the same thing. And I feel like that gets you into a
That
rut.
definitely,
Like,
but
I
it
just
helps
gotta
keep you
do
out
something
of the rut.
different.
Yeah, doing something different.
Like there's times like I used to bring my motorhome to every single race. This year I'm like, I'm gonna stay in the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay with the guys.
All-
yeah,
that's
I want
a
to do
lot,
that.
yeah.
That's just a different thing. I want to try that. That's
you doing
different.
that?
Yeah. I'm the most of them.
How's that?
Which
Good.
hotel? Which
I
hotel?
enjoy it.
What room?
222.
Yes, always, right?
Oh, is it more twos?
So have you found, is there any benefit that you found to that? Or
I just think it just changes it up. It's a little bit more exciting, right? I can go to dinner with the guys, or I can go like things afterwards. I'm around people more. Like I hate being by myself. I might be the opposite of you on this one.
Yeah.
I can't
I'm
handle
cool,
it.
man.
I can't handle it. Always got to be around people.
why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I think
What
my
does it make you
mind.
feel?
Actually, I do know why. My mind thinks more when I'm with people. I think out loud. I'm not much of an internal thinker. Like I got to talk things out,
wow.
and I think being around people makes me better. So I like that, and I like hearing people's stories and their perspectives. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's times that I got to be by myself and study, but 9 times out of 10, if I'm studying racing, I got someone there with me. The same as my spotter or engineers, crew chiefs, or whatever. Like, if we're going through stuff, I got someone with me because I want to bounce ideas off. And what do you think
You're
of that?
talking it out, yeah.
Yeah, I got to talk it out.
It's what you were saying about your songwriting, sort of, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I would change up stuff too, and like the songwriting, it's like people ask me all the time, hey, so like, how do you write a song? I'm like, well, there's about 1 million different ways to do it, you know. Sometimes they're like, does the music come first? And I'm like, well, I change it up all the time, even to the point of,
Every time you write a song, you do it a different way.
and that's just the nature, right? You might get an idea and go pick up a guitar and maybe make them work together, and you go call some friends, whatever you write the song.
Okay.
But also things like, I would, just like you're talking about, how to keep it interesting and not be the same path to work every day. I picked up one day, I said, you know what? I don't want, it was just always an acoustic guitar. Everybody had acoustic guitars in the room and they had a tape recorder, and that's what we did. And later on, you go doing a song. Well, I started bringing in an electric guitar with a little amp. People were like, what are you doing? I'm plugging all this stuff in. And then I brought a little speaker with a little iPad that I could make drums on, and it was like drums, and we're playing a groove. And then one day I go, you know, all I'm bringing is a bass today. Just to, it changes, kind of restarts that brain and gives you something else kind of to lean into, even though it's all pointing in the same direction.
I like
You know?
that. I like that.
That's, yeah.
Bring a banjo to a right, only.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just for you. Like, it's for your whole band.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
they're all going through the same stuff.
Yeah, and on stage
another
we do
night,
that,
another
yeah.
play.
On
another,
stage we
like, here we
change
go
stuff all
again.
the
It's
time.
another,
Yeah.
we gotta go out
It's
here
like
again.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Like,
like-
oh, here's the same set again. Like, I
Right.
mean, it's like, you gotta switch it up.
You made me think about your song Soul. I love that song. And I love the other sound that it, like, boy, all that stuff, right? But Soul sounds pretty different. How'd that come to be?
Well, it was really, really, really different whenever I heard it. And Sky wrote it, and somebody said, hey, just listen to this song. And I was like, I mean, this is just so not anywhere in my world. I'm like, but something about it was just really like hooky. It didn't even have some big twist lyrically or anything like that, but just something about that groove and the soul, all that. I was like, a couple days later, I said, I might better record it how I would record it. Because that, if anybody ever heard that version, you would never think that it would be, say, a single for Lee Brice 100 radio.
Change it up.
So yeah, I got in there and said, all right, same groove, same thing. Let me go record it how I would record that song if I had written it. And even that way, I still had to sort of fight to get it into my world because it was just kind of a pop song.
Yeah.
But that made it, for me, I love these songs like this because it makes it unique from all the other stuff that's on the radio. If I go bring a Southern rock song into the mix and say, hey, here's my new single, they're like, well, we already got a Jason Aldean, you know, and they only got 20 spots on their playlist, so they're not gonna play 2 of the same. So you gotta bring your own thing, you know, you gotta bring your own thing. You can't go write a George Strait song and go put it out like it sounded like George Strait because they've already got a George Strait song. You know what I mean?
So you really got to know the market.
game,
So you
right?
have to
It's like-
have to find your own thing, and that's a competition thing there to go. Well, for me to be my best, I gotta write something that's like nothing else out there, and that also still fits in on the radio. It's like this double-edged
but
sword.
also fits your brand and like who you are.
It's like, hey,
you're
stand,
right.
you shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
It does, but
interesting.
you did, like, you checked all those boxes with it, because that's every time I hear it, I think, wow, I wonder what, because it does sound different, but it sounds like you to me, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's cool to hear how you build a song, right? Like, you get so many, like, I see how race cars are built every day.
Right.
I completely understand that because it makes sense. There's
Makes
parts,
sense.
there's pieces,
Yep.
you assemble them, like, it's
Start here,
visual. I
get you to
see
here,
it. Right.
get you to here, then
But
you
with the
do it.
song, it's not as visual. Like I see
To
it getting
you,
built.
To you, it might not be.
But to you, it
For
is.
me, I see
You
it. I
see
see it
the
in
whole
colors,
thing.
and I see it in pictures.
You see it in colors?
I see it in, I see it in a million different things. And so that's why I'll use, for lack of better words, an and or a but or a the in between all the major lyric because the color is right. You know, it's like you gotta, when you hear a word in a co-write, that word it's like, somebody told me one time, you know, Lee, that's cool, but that furniture just doesn't match the room. It's like, you know, you got a toilet in the living room. That doesn't make sense. So the lyric has got to be the right furniture in that lyric. You know, in other words, the word that you're going to use has got to like fit into what you're saying here. If we're talking about race cars and stuff, you know, you're not going to probably be putting the word milkshake handing it to you in the middle of your race. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't necessarily. There's a lot of other words and terms you're going to use in the middle of a race.
Yeah.
You know, pit stops and tires and lug wrenches and, you know, air hoses, all those things work. But you're not going to talk about, you know,
Something way off on something.
bottles for a baby or alligators or they just don't fit in that room. And so that room, every song is a room. And so, you know, you got to make sure that furniture's right, and that comes with just feeling it. Like, and you feel it. You know, you just like if you walk in the room, but that doesn't feel right over there.
So what
Right.
happens?
You
So,
know?
then so you get your song built, right? Okay, so now you got it dialed, right? You got the whole thing. It is this thing's money. I
Right.
got it, right? What happens next? Like, how do you
Then you go
present
try-
it to the world to where everyone else is gonna love it as much as you? Like, what do you do?
Well, we like to try to make a plan. You know, instead of just going, hey, we're going to put this out tomorrow.
Right.
We like to go, hey, what's after this? If this is a hit, what's next? What's next? And what's next? So that everybody in my world, at the labels world, all those people can start doing their job and going, okay, if this is next and this is next, let's make a plan for all of it, not just for right this second.
So you have like a 6-month plan of this
Or
is
2 year
So
plan.
it's not just a one-off.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's backing.
You know, there's so much backing, and then like
because if
for
you have a
this
hit,
first
there's a
song,
bunch of momentum. So you got to have the
you
next.
don't want to get a hit on momentum and then all of a sudden go,
I got nothing.
oh, I got to pull over and wait until I figure out how do I figure out the next gear I got to go to? No,
You better be ready.
put it in second, put it in third, put it in fourth.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it, you know.
So will you shelf a song? Like you get the thing done and you put it away
I've been
until you get a
shelving
plan?
songs for 10, 15 years now.
A song that just like, and you know what? Let's
And
pull
I
this one off the
know-
shelf. This is gonna be it.
Right, and I've done
Really?
a little bit of that with this record, but I know for a fact on future records, I've got songs that'll be 10, 15 years old, at least, if not 20 years old.
Yeah.
Some of the first things I wrote when I came to Nashville, I still, to this day, know that they are relevant when the time comes. So yes, I got
just
stuff on
got
the
it
shelf
hanging
all the
there.
time. Yeah.
Wow. That's nuts.
What's
To even
it
think
sound
that.
like? What can you give us a little example of
You mean like
content of the song, or just what you wrote
you
about
know,
those days?
One,
or...
you know, one of the first songs I wrote in Nashville was called "Beautiful You," and it's kind of talking about daily life between two people, and the guy's just going, "I don't know what I'd do without beautiful you." Start smiling, laughing till you're crying. Even though I'm trying, I can't help it but laughing at myself. I don't know how you do it. Just like there's nothing to it, you know. But when I look up, there ain't nothing left but beautiful you. It's like this love song to a
timeless.
wife. It's
Yeah.
timeless.
Yeah.
And we tried to even put it on my first record. We recorded it 3 different times, and none of them came out like it ever felt when it was just me playing for people. Because when I did that, people, it was like magic, you know? And then we get in the studio and try to capture that, just never could find that magic. But I know that song has never left me, and I know it's still relevant at this moment. I could put it out tomorrow. And so I've got hopefully a lot of records left I can do, because I got a bunch of songs I want to get out there.
Do you release
so
one
cool.
song so like the music world's changed, right? Ever since you started downloading music instead of buying CDs. And so, like, do you ever release like one song at a time, or is it like a whole like set?
You know, we kind of
12
a lot of
songs?
times we'll tease with, you know, we've got an album coming out. We'll tease with a couple of the songs on the record before, so people start hearing it and getting to know it
right.
before the, you know. But if it's ever kind of completely in my hands, which I think I'm coming close to that, yeah, I may put out a song. If I write one next week and I
That
got a
sounds
cool
good.
track
Go
on
for
it,
it.
put this on iTunes right now.
and just see
Text
what
it out.
happens.
And who cares? Here we go. Now move to
Yeah.
the next song, because it's really been hard now looking back at all these songs that are just sitting here. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go, man, we wrote this today, and while you're excited about it, a lot of times that excitement transfers. Like if I played you a brand new song right now, then I was like, oh, listen to this, you'd be like, oh man, that is so cool.
Attitudes are contagious.
You know,
It's like
I say it all the
energy,
time.
I'm like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
it's been a year, 2 years, and I'm like, you know, oh, you know, well, yeah, I got this song. I can play this for you. You're like, oh, can play me some music. Well, okay. It's just different.
Yeah.
So that attitude and that timing, something about something fresh off the freaking stove just
Better than
does
leftovers.
better. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you guys about your kids, because one of the things I was like, oh, I've been so interested, because you both have 3 kids, boy, girl, for both of you, right? And the ages.
That's right.
There you go, right? So yours are 15, is that right? Remind- 14, 9.
about to be 6.
Yes, Dakota,
Riker,
Riker,
and
Truly.
Shirley.
Okay, and you, Hudson's 5.
Hudson's 5, Jameson's 3, and then Amelia's 1.
Woo,
We got a 5, 3, and a 1.
Yeah, so I've got Dell is 9, Sybil is 6, right? So we're
Okay.
sort of in the same
Yeah, you guys
vicinity.
are
We
a
both
little,
have
you're a little ahead
kindergartners.
of me, yes.
Barely, but yeah. So how do you do what you do? And you guys are talking about, like, when you're talking about racing, or if you're struggling or whatever it is. Because I know I deal with that obviously as a working mom, but for you guys, it's a little bit of a different, unique deal too. So how do you keep doing it? What type of changes?
I think it's. I've tried to. Well, it's the balance, right? The balance is the hardest thing, and I try to do when I'm home, and I'm not successful as 100%. I try to put my phone down and say, okay, I'm only going to answer this phone unless it's like
Right.
something's
Bad.
really bad, right? Like I got to answer the phone for something. But I try not to do that, because I try to be like, I categorize things to where it's dad, husband,
Right.
race car driver, like boom, boom, boom,
Right.
and none of them mix. So when I'm at the racetrack, don't bother me.
Yeah.
I'm going racing. When I'm at home, work doesn't. You better not bother me.
Don't bother me.
I'm at home.
There's somebody that done
I think I try to do 100% at what I'm doing at that moment, because I can't multitask worth a crap. I can't, like. We were back here earlier, and they were doing a sound check, and I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to say earlier, and I was so into the music, and
So you're so funny, because I
can't
would
do it.
think the
I can't
opposite
do it.
about you, though, for real.
cannot do it.
That's so funny.
And a race
But
car is
that's
the only
prob-
place I can multitask. Only place. I think
And that's
because
your
my life's
laser
on the line.
focus.
And because if I screw up, I hurt
Right.
myself. But like any other occasion, I have to focus unless I go bonkers.
Yeah, I echo
And so-
that along with beforehand, now I know that I have to plan way ahead. And it's like Sarah said one time, everything was frustrating. She's like, I don't want to have to like schedule time to hang
Oh,
together,
dude, I heard that
or
one before.
schedule a date. And I'm like, well, baby, that's just what it is. And honestly, and I could flip it around on her and go, when she's in the middle of her mama day at home and homeschooling and a million things, I try to call her. She's like, Lee, I'm in the middle. I'm like, I don't want to have to schedule. Right? You know what I'm saying?
I do know.
But, so she gets it whenever it goes like that. But like, it's the truth. So I have to schedule. I have to go, look, I know I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or for 6 weeks. I'll be gone a lot. I'll be home a day or two. Well, after about that time now, I'm not going to continue doing that through the summer all the way. Like next week, I'm home for 16 days straight, which is, that's
Great.
home.
Yeah.
Now, I'll go to work some, I'll go to the studio, you know. I'll take the kids to the farm though, and I'll have so much time with them. I'll take them off her hands, let her have a couple weeks of just like, go to the mall and, shop for towels. I know that's what you want to do. But, you know what I mean?
I don't think, Lee, that's probably what she wants to do.
I swear it seems like that's what,
But listen, I finally got, my husband was saying the same thing, and he is on the Today Show in the morning. He has several people that are in charge of one thing, and that is how it gets done, right? And it's how, so to me, that's always so fascinating, is understanding how he, just like you guys, you have a family around you at work, but it's also the way you treat those people that is everything.
Everything.
And I just started finally calling my husband's assistant and being like, I need from 4:30 to 5 on the calendar. And sometimes I don't tell him, and he'll just pop it up and be like, what's this? And I'm like, we need to discuss X, Y, Z,
Isn't it
right?
crazy?
I'm like,
that's funny.
it's hard, but it's
It's so
because you've
true.
got to
But if
respect.
you don't do that,
Yeah, then you can't.
You mess
or
up.
I got
You
mad.
miss it. You miss
He was
things.
going
I
for
miss
drinks
things.
with a friend of ours, a guy friend. I was like, hey, like, how are you doing? And he was like, well, we got to schedule it. I'm like, okay, so then that's right. So
Yeah.
it's communication, I guess, too.
Yeah. I always have a hard time too, like shutting it off, right? It sounds
too.
like if it was a bad race, which listen, I don't win every one of them. I wish I could, but it's a 1 in 40 chance. So if I win 6 races in a season, that's a pretty damn good season, right? So most of the time I lose, and like I'm mad because I'm competitive, and it's hard for me when I get home sometimes to just completely shut that off,
very
right?
hard.
Like, hey, Daddy, they come home, they give you a hug, and like, and like I'm happy about that, and I want to be with them, and I want to be as excited as they are. But then at the back of my mind, I'm like, I screwed up here, or as a team, we should have done this better.
As
And
a
I think of all the
competitor.
things, and I'm like, I can't shut it off.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I need like a certain amount of time to like,
if you go on
move on.
vacations now, it's about the 3rd day before I actually take
Enjoy
a
something.
big breath and go, I feel like I'm on vacation now. Because it takes me 2 or 3 days to just get all this out of my head and actually just say, oh, you can be on actual, like just being
I can do
on
nothing.
vacation. I can do nothing because the first few days I'm going, this thing I need to make better. I
gotta
need
do
to
this,
get
I
a
gotta do
song.
that,
I gotta
yeah.
get
This guy's calling me. I gotta get it done.
you know, and like, it's, you have to make things a priority. That's kind of how you do it. You know?
Yeah.
You got to make things a priority, schedule things in if you have to. If it's
Yeah.
priority, it's priority.
Yep. Family first, though.
We're really tight on time. I want to ask you one more thing, 2 more things, and I'm going to make it quick, but I really want to get this out. So one of the things that I was on a call with both of your teams, right? And the one other thing that really they both said, these are very clear similarities, is the way that you both have navigated what we were talking about a little bit, but just the teams that are around you, right?
man.
And how, but also the selflessness that you have. Mike Foley was talking about when his wife, Kaylee, was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 cancer, and he said, you, Joey, right away, we're like, let's put her name on the car, let's make sure the insurance is good, let's make sure, like all these things. And Lee, I know you do similar things because they've shared those stories, but you don't have to do that,
Well,
right?
I mean,
You do.
you do. For
You
me, because
it's the right
honestly,
thing to do.
they do so, it's the right thing to do. But they do, even if they didn't do this, but they do. Everybody, if you have a good camp, they do so much for me on a daily 7 a.m. to freaking 12 a.m. day, every day, all the time. And yes, they get paid and all this stuff, but I couldn't pay them enough. So
Yeah, you imagine replacing them or
you
trying
know
to
what?
figure
So,
that out.
Yeah, and if there's something like that comes along, or hey, my mama is not doing. Get your butt out of here.
Yo.
We'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
Go. Why are you still here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No questions asked. I've been really lucky to have the band since the very beginning, and I got a lot of my guys. Most of my crew have been there now for a long time, and they work together. We had to weed through some people for a while because attitudes don't work with me. That's like the only way to get fired around my camp is to have a bad attitude for a while. Like not like you're having a bad day. I just mean if you're just
Negative.
if you're just a negative person, it ain't. Sorry, I love you, but it's not gonna work around here because that's just a little. That's like a cancer in your thing, and it'll do that, and it'll start tearing things apart and all things, and like, nope, you got to go. You could screw up your job. You can. Everybody has their days.
Yeah.
But you're fine with me. You have a place we live. We're a family. Just don't have an attitude. Like, you got to treat people, everybody,
Yep.
better than they deserve to be treated.
100%.
And it comes back to
It's the best investment you can make.
everybody. It's a great investment.
Best one. Best one.
And you know, just taking care of your people because they just take care of us all the time, every day, non-stop. And so, yeah, any chance I get to do something special or for for a good reason or for no reason, I do just because I've always have. Even when I didn't have any money, I'd be trying to find money to give them more than I can afford to give them because I just appreciated them so much, you know. But
Number one thing my dad taught me, you can't soar like an eagle if you're working with a bunch of turkeys. And I tell you, is that not the most truest thing you ever
it's
heard?
great.
I mean,
it is so true.
It's so true. Like you can't, like, you're only as good as the tool you're working with, right?
That's right.
If you're trying to change a tire with a screwdriver,
Yes.
you can't, sorry,
It's
that
gonna be a
tire,
long day.
nothing gonna happen,
Yeah.
right? Like you just
Yeah.
gotta, like, it's so important to build that team. And like Lee says, it's hard to get those people. Like to get the right
Takes a
people
minute.
in the right places that have the skill set, but also the
Attitude,
same attitude, the drive, the desire of where you want to go as a
Yeah.
leader. And you're relying on these people so much, right? Because there's so many
Behind
things I
closed
think
doors,
neither one
yeah.
of us can do. Physically, like cannot get to these things.
And probably
you're
don't
relying-
even know about. Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Don't even know what's happening. Nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, I'll go
It's
somewhere
happening.
and someone's like, "Oh, thank you so much for doing this," and I'm like, "Don't know what you're talking about, but you're welcome. I don't know what happened." And I always say that. I don't know what you're. I'm like, "Well, that was all this guy, right?" And I just
Yeah.
and they'll explain to me like, "It's great. Like it's good. Like you got to have people that got your back, that have your vision in place to go somewhere, and then they grow with you."
Yeah, and they
Right? It's
care
so
about your
important for them
vision.
to
It
grow
becomes
with
their
you.
vision.
Yes.
If you show your trust in them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
bring
start
them
getting
along.
people that have been with you for 8, 10 years. It's a real thing.
That's
Like,
a real
I mean,
deal.
and it says a lot about people too. Like if I met some like meeting Lee and he says he's had his team around him for a long period of time,
Yeah.
it's like
It says
I
something.
automatically know he's a good guy,
Yeah, it's true.
right? I just know it because nobody's gonna stick around
Right.
jerk
Right.
for that long, right? They're gonna be
Right.
like, this guy, if he's a real bad person to work for and didn't treat people correctly, he's gonna have a revolving door. You know, in and out
And a
all
lot
day
of
long.
people do, and they're okay with that. They just go through bands and go through crew members and go through lighting guys and go through managers even and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that is not how I like to do things.
No.
I like to do things with people that I can trust because I know them, and I don't have to be there to make every decision because I know the decisions they make reflect on me, and I know they make the right ones all the
Yeah.
time,
Yep.
every time.
And you grow together,
Yeah,
right? Like it's
everybody,
like
that's right.
it's hard to put someone new or have a whole new team, and it's like you got to start all over, right? You're like, oh, I
don't
got
wanna
to
do
teach this
that.
person everything.
I don't
This
want to do
person,
that.
Like, you know,
Maybe
doesn't
it comes
know
out
our.
of laziness. We're like, well, we just like to keep our team.
That might be
around.
it too.
I don't want to have to do that again.
Did you?
No, that was hard. I don't want to do that again. You know?
Yeah.
That's not it, okay?
I know.
What has been the toughest thing that you both have learned along the way that you've dealt with that has taught you or that you've learned something really valuable from through your experience?
That mistakes are the best opportunity there can be. And it's hard to understand that when you're in the trenches of making mistakes. But it's where you grow the most is when you make a mistake. And as long as you make that mistake twice, where you're better
Right.
because of it.
Right.
And maybe that's my mentality because, like I said, I lose more than I win. That those mistakes are stepping stones to victory, eventually.
Yeah.
And it's also what digs you out of the hole quickly when you think about, okay, I learned something, I can move on now.
Right.
And so I think that was like a key lesson for me early in my career is I made a lot of mistakes, not just the racetrack, but how I handled situations off the racetrack and those things. There's no regrets. No, because I'm
learned something from it.
exactly. I'm the person I am now because of that. And so, not that I've ever achieved where I'm going to be or want to be, right? Like I'm still, I'm always going to be chasing that, and I should be. But the mistakes now, almost, I don't want to say get me excited, but they're not a negative to me anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
I totally agree with that, and that's one thing, a big thing, I've learned too. And I also have learned, like, we're doing, essentially, these jobs aren't easy,
Right.
but they are amazing, that we get to do, like, our passion.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have been trying, I try to every day remind myself, instead of, oh man, I got a show tonight. I'm trying to make sure that I'm always, man, we got a show tonight.
Excited about it.
Or kind of like, who am I going to meet?
Appreciate,
What's gonna happen
and
to me?
appreciate the sun while it's shining, and know that these days are going to pass, and I'm going to look back one day and go, God, those were the greatest days.
You're going to miss it at some point.
And like, I'm trying to soak them in, and not just with my career, but obviously it's kind of teaching me from my kids, because I'm seeing them shoot up like sprouts.
I know,
And
me
I'm like,
too.
so I'm like, wait, what just happened? Now this one's already grown. I only got 2 more.
Are you, I don't mean to hijack the conversation for a second, but are you concerned of not being Lee Brice, the country music singer that everybody knows and loves? Someday, like when you retire and you're not like,
No,
you're still going to have music on the radio
I'm
and
not
you're going to be
concerned
popular
about
forever.
that,
But
because I'm going to always have the greatest music out on the planet. No. I really am not concerned, because if I'm to that point, music will still be a part of me. Creating music, producing even.
But like
or just writing.
the thrill and adrenaline you get when you walk up on stage.
That I think that that does change a little bit, with life, right? If it ever got to a point where I just
You can't do it anymore.
or can't do it, I would appreciate. That's why I want to do it now and like hold on to the moments, because when that day comes, hopefully shortly after that I'll be in the ground. Hopefully I can go really long.
It's a quick.
So you can go longer than me.
It's a quick
See,
exit.
I think about this a lot because I love racing. And you're going to get to a point where I'm not good enough to do it anymore, right? Like eventually age will catch up to you, right? I got time, but someday it will.
Yeah.
And someday I'm not going to be able to win, and I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to wonder like, okay, am I going to like? You talk to so many athletes that I talk to that retire and they have a void in their life, and they're depressed. And I don't think I'll be like that, but I think I'll miss it still.
I think you got to find something else to be something else to be competitive in, something that you love.
Yeah.
Fishing, something. But
I
then
ain't
your
got patience for that either,
something. Or
Yeah.
running a crew, or running a. You know what I'm saying? There's something involved in what you're doing. Like for me, like I was saying, like music. Okay, when I'm not on that stage, I can still be in the studio. I can still be playing guitar.
Right.
I'm still in music at that point. I'm still being creative. These are my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
I think it presents itself to you too. I think that I really do. I think that there are certain breadcrumbs that when it gets to that point, that maybe they sort of present themselves and it comes back to that feeling. The feeling that you felt when you were 6, the feeling that you felt when you were 6. And and if you tap back into that, I really do. I believe it presents itself in different ways. Like I've made some decisions because my kids are growing like weeds, right? And it's like I don't want to be gone all the time, but I really miss it when I'm not on the road working, right? Like, so I try to do both, and I realize like I've probably cost myself a lot of stuff because of that stance. But what I found is what starts to feel like it also makes me whole are some opportunities like that too, where it's like, okay, wait a minute, I get that feeling when I'm up speaking, right? I had never had that opportunity before, and I'm like, wait a minute, if I'm sharing some thoughts, it's not the same as like when the red light goes on, but it's still, I don't know.
I get that. I get that. Agreed.
You have something for Lee.
Oh, I do.
Did you know he was coming with
No.
Hang on, it's over here. I bet my microphone all fell off. Look, I'm tied to the.
Dude,
look
you
at,
are
hold on, I'm
tied
looped
to
in.
the chair.
Oh,
Who did
man.
that?
That's how they keep me from running
you
away.
couldn't go anywhere.
That's what they do.
They
We
knew
got
that
you
you
a
were-
helmet.
Oh, dude.
So we wanted to thank you for doing this tonight. Like I got batteries here. I got a
Like
disaster,
a
man.
real helmet?
So cool.
Well,
Oh my God, Riker's gonna lose his mind when I show him this.
there you go. So
Dude,
Look
are
at that.
you kidding
Oh my
me?
gosh.
we wanted to get you that. Say thank
Look
you
at
for
this.
playing
Are you
tonight.
kidding me? Thank you. That's awesome.
Now see if you can get that on your head.
I got a big head. I can
kidding.
tell you right now. I can look at it and tell.
Remember in the beginning of this, we were talking about him fitting
Yeah,
into that
in your car.
in the car. Yeah.
I had to get a big, when I played football, I had to get a big helmet. Even like in 8th grade, I had a big head. This is so cool.
Cool, man. Well,
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
brother. That's awesome. I love
it.
And I will tell you, Rocker is going to flip out.
Good. Cool.
I've got some model
We'll
cars.
send-
and
we'll send
stuff
him a
from
care
you,
package up there, too. We'll
I
do
got
that.
some model cars you sent me, and I'm like, here, I want you to leave him in the box. And then he's like,
Oh, he's like that?
excited.
Oh, that's
that.
He just loves cars, and
That's
he'll be
cool.
like, "There's a '68 Mustang, and there's a." I'm like, so
That's awesome.
Anything like this, and I was telling him about
Car
you the other
guy.
day, and he's like, so he really loves
We'll
it.
bring him
so-
to the races one day.
Oh yeah, we will.
That'll be fun.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Cool.
guys.
Thank
you guys
you.
are awesome.
Awesome.
This is a really fun conversation.
It was.
Right?
A good
Learned
time.
a lot. Are you gonna get up and play?
No, I'm just gonna go up there and talk to some people, but that was it.
You got
That's
the,
where it ends for me.
You got the okay. So this is something that I had for you.
Well, thank you. That's awesome.
I have played many songs, many nights on this guitar,
Oh my gosh.
and so this isn't one you bought out of a box and signed and gave to you, but like I feel like, you know, if you ever do have to retire, you can play
This
guitar.
is something. Well, and does it come with a coach?
Yeah, you know,
Private coach.
just do this.
Just-
That's all. Yeah. Got it?
Nope. But I got. But thank you very
And Lee
much.
is
That's
throwing
super
in
cool.
some lessons, right?
That is awesome.
That is
Super cool.
amazing.
That's been played
Thank
and
you.
worn out and beaten in and out again.
When
and
do you use that guitar specifically? Are there certain
I used that.
nights?
I used that for the most of the show acoustically, and then I did for a while. I played Adult Dance on it because you have to tune the guitar differently for Adult Dance. For a while, I would tune this one to that tuning. It's called Dadgad, D-A-D-G-A-D, and play Adult Dance with it. It's just two fingers. Take 2 fingers and slide it to the thing. Keep the same position,
Do you always flip people off when you
I know
do
you
it?
are.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, wait a minute.
this is a
That's
G.
how you do
This
it?
is a G, by the way.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
So if that happens now, I guess I was just playing the
I'm
the
just
G.
playing a G chord,
I was playing the
right?
G note.
I love it. Wait, what are your tattoos? Are those birthdays?
These are birthdays, and my first #1 I sang, and my first #1 I wrote, first song of the year, and kids' birthdays and wedding date.
Amazing.
Can't forget them.
Yeah.
Smart.
Problem is
Smart.
my first #1 I sang and my wedding date were 1 year apart exactly, and I didn't know it until I got tattooed. I went, well, that really sucks because
Oh,
now I can't
wow.
remember which
Really
one's the
too
wedding
much.
date.
Okay.
How many years has it been? Oh no.
But yeah, so
Right.
yeah,
I
there's
got
a
married
date,
on
special dates.
12, 13, 14.
There you go.
On the date.
There you go.
I asked her on 11, 12, 13, got married 12, 13, 14.
Are you superstitious?
Can't screw it up. No, it just was because I know I'd forget.
Oh my God. Are you for real?
Yes, absolutely. I was like, this is the perfect
amazing.
day. I'll never forget this.
Awesome.
Oh my God. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. That's
so
super
great
cool.
catching up.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
cool.
you. Awesome.
I learned so much from that conversation, and what I can't get out of my mind is Joey Logano's story about the Forbes executive. Love that. It left me thinking about that for days. I want to say a huge thank you to so many people who helped me get this episode together. That means Joey Logano's team, Mike and Warren, Lee Brice's team, Enzo, Anthony, also the crew at Two Waves Media, Max, and the guys that hopped up on stage to get amazing shots. Family Made also for this amazing partnership. And a huge thumbs up to Joey Logano's foundation. Watching them raise money for the work that he does, the impact, everyone could feel it. They help families and youths and kids who are get second chances, people who specifically are going through crisis. And so the work that they do impacts so many people, and they are truly doing great work. Anyway, if you like this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know who else you'd like to hear with on Lunch with Lindsay, but I'll see you next time. Thank you.